Mike King is in the business. Mike King is in the business. Mike King is in the business. Mike King is in the business, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike, the leading business radio program in the area. I'm your host, Mike King. I appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here are mine. I have no connection to, support of, agreement with any other host. Information or ads on the station. I don't work for the station. My program just airs here on a daily basis. Join me as this cutting edge show. We uplift the community and showcase RVA in a different way. The sounds you're listening to are emanating from the Mike King Biz Studio, which is the Global Epicenter of Social Enterprise Business. We'd like to thank our show sponsors, Tom Childry, the credit card guy. If you have credit card merchant issues, Tom Childry is the man. He can help you get paid quicker. So he understands the ins and outs of the credit card process, as well as Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers. If you got things around the household that you need removed, that's Things Not People, give Andy Taylor a call. He can help you. If you have people around the house, stop cooking, stop giving out gas money, change the internet password. Maybe those things might help a person think about moving. We'd also like to thank Chef Michelle Wilson. Up next, so here with us, we have my man, Anthony Romanello from Henrico Economic Development. But first, we have a special guest who's riding with me today. We got my man, Andrew Heights, who is here with us. Welcome.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me.
All right, Andrew Heights is one of the premier DJs in the area, and I broke out my intro music just for him. But that's the best I could do. So we brought out, my Biz Open as well as the choir. We're going to talk to him a little bit later, but he is a business owner. We're going to talk to him in another segment about the business side of that. But right now, we're talking to Anthony Romanello of Henrico EDA, who is a sponsor of Biz Wednesdays. He always has a lot of good tips for us. Anthony, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike, thank you. I thought that was my walk-up music, but now I know it's so.
Why does everybody wants their own walk-up music?
Good though.
It is.
I like it.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay, so if you have walk-up music, what is your walk-up music?
I don't know. I think what you just played, I love the choir. That was great.
It is kind of heavenly, I always tell people the show's so good, it's almost heavenly. My wife, she gives me the side eye when I pull that one out. She's like, don't get carried away with yourself, Mr. Little Radio Man. I guess she could tell I'm having a little bit of fun with this. All righty, sir. What's going on in Henrico?
Yeah, well, Mike and Andrew, there's a lot going on in the county. Our economy is really strong right now. One of our recent announcements was the expansion of CocaCola bottling out in Sandston. That was announced last week. That's a $23 million expansion that they're doing. They're adding about 40 jobs. They're a major bottler here in the Mid-Atlantic for, believe it or not, Coke actually makes 300 different products. A lot of people don't realize that. Yeah, but it's a whole lot more than Coke and Diet Coke and Sprite, many of which are made right here in Sandston. And what they're doing, Mike, which is really cool, is they take these tiny bottles that come in, they're about the size of a test tube, and they blow them up into a 20-ounce bottle. And that's what the Coke products are put in. So what that means is that they reduce the truck traffic by about 60 to 70 trucks a week because the bottles are coming in so small. Of course, they're leaving, normal size. So it's a substantial environmental enhancement for them. Obviously, they're going to, be able to reap higher profits, which is great too. And we're really excited about their expansion here in Henrico. So that's one really great announcement that we had recently. Tomorrow night, the Board of Supervisors is scheduled to take action on the zoning for the Green City project. We've talked about that before. That's had a lot of press. That's about a $2 billion project.
That's billion with the B.
Billion with a B, right? Thank you, Mike. At the intersection of Parham Road, Interstate 95, on about 200 acres. That's going to have a 17,000 seat arena, a couple million square feet of office space, and about 2,400 housing units there. So that project is working its way through the approval process.
On something like the arena, what time frame would you think that would be completed to be open?
They're hoping to have the arena open, Mike, 2025. So that's going to be one of the first things that they would do. It's about a 10-year build out, maybe a 12-year build out for Green City, but the arena rebuild, or the build of the arena and the rebuild of the old Best Products office building, which is on the site. This used to be where Best Products was headquartered. Those are the first two out of the box. And so they're hoping to have those online in about 4 years.
On the mic with Mike King, Andrew Hikes here with us. Anthony Romanello is here with us, talking all the great things in Henrico. That, going back to the Coca-Cola thing, that's interesting. So you're able to shrink the bottles come in smaller. So you're reducing your cost on one trip. From a business standpoint, that's a win. So when they explained that to you, what did you say?
Well, it absolutely is a win. You're exactly right. And getting, 60, 70 trucks off the road every week, helps move traffic. So it really is a win-win all around from an environmental standpoint, from a cost standpoint. And these little bottles come in there. Just think of a test tube, or when you give blood, they look like they're about the size of those vials. And when it goes out, it's a regular 20-ounce Coke bottle that we all drink every day. And so it really has enable them to enhance their efficiency.
One of Mike Anthony Romanello, he is one of the sponsors of Wednesdays, Biz Wednesdays, all the great things happening here. One of Mike, it is the best business radio program around. All of those things impact life in Henrico on down to, so look, that's on the bigger side of the employers in Henrico. We get a man like my man, Andrew here is a small business owner. Let's talk a little bit about, from the small business side, what's happening new and exciting in the county.
Yeah, well, we've really, since the pandemic, Mike, we've really reached out to our small businesses a whole lot more than the EDA has ever done in the past, because as everybody knows, so many small businesses, particularly in the retail and hospitality world, were hit so hard early in the pandemic, many of who are still recovering from that. One of the things that I'm most proud of that we started last year on a regional basis was reopening the Small Business Development Center here in the greater Richmond area. And it's under the auspices of Virginia Community Capital, but a Small Business Development Center provides technical assistance to small businesses, but also assistance in navigating all of the federal business grant opportunities that are administered by the SBA or the Small Business Administration. And that was one of the challenges we had early in the pandemic. That was a resource that we didn't have for our businesses that we now have. Rodney Williams, who is the new executive director of that team, we met with him last week, and he's got some real big plans for that office. All the services are free. And, Rodney be a good guy to get on your show, Mike. He's really energetic about what he's doing, and a former pro basketball player also. So has a really interesting story.
Okay, so let's talk. We always talk about what's the mood on the streets. What are the streets saying? You talked to a lot of business people, large and small. What's the mood now as we move into 2022?
I think that for a lot of our key sectors, data center, finance and insurance, the advanced manufacturing, things are very strong. There's folks who are really bullish about the future. The two areas that we continue to hear a lot of concern about and a lot of question about is hospitality, as it's just beginning to reemerge, and the restaurant scene. And then also with that would be what's going to happen with office space. And every company in the world right now is rethinking their office space needs. The pandemic proved that most of us can work remotely. Many of us can work remotely from anywhere in the world as long as there's Wi-Fi. And so there's a lot of conversations that are happening now about when folks will return to the office and what that might look like. So I don't have that crystal ball on that, Mike, but Henrico's got 22 million square feet of office space. So that's something that we're watching very carefully. We're going to work very strongly with our development community to help them reposition some buildings that may need a use change because they're no longer an office building, and continue to provide supports to the retail and hospitality community as they emerge out of the pandemic, and we hope emerge even more strongly.
Mike King, here with Andrew Hypes, Anthony Romanello. We are here talking about business, Henrico. So are you guys back out on the road attracting businesses again? So now, Andrew, let's talk a little bit about your business. How did the pandemic affect what you do as one of the leading DJs in the area?
Obviously at first, I wasn't gigging at all. I wasn't doing any gigs outside. And so, I kind of had to pivot. It was like a month before, I think, or a little less than that, I started seeing places kind of leaning towards shutting down. And thankfully, I taught lessons, production and DJing lessons at Sam Ash music stores. And so what I did essentially was, in the beginning when we shut down, I started offering, FaceTime DJing and production lessons. And that helped me really get through the majority of the pandemic as far as income goes. So I was able to to make it work doing that, thankfully.
That is true.
Otherwise, it
would have been harder.
It would have been really
real
hard.
bad.
Yeah.
So, Anthony, so if he is the small business owner out there, typical, what type of recommendations or advice going forward that you could give that the county offers to business owners like him?
Well, you can always, start with us at henrico.com and reach out to our team, and we're happy to point you in the various directions. As I said, the Small Business Development Center, I think, is a really good tool. We didn't have that a year ago, and that's a really good tool for our small businesses, especially in navigating any federal programs that are out there. I think Andrew's story is a great one, Mike, because what we've seen through the pandemic is so many small businesses get really clever and get really creative in terms of how they could continue to be viable and do things a little different. Or in the case of Andrew, it sounds like a lot different, but it's been really neat to see throughout our business community how folks are changing as a result of the pandemic. And I think in some ways, those changes may be permanent, as we've all learned how to do business a little bit differently.
One of the things, so I always ask people, so when you're doing your thing, teaching up at Sam Ash, DJing, if somebody had told you that you would have had to change the model, how easy would it have been? Or were you forced to, like everyone else in the world?
It's pretty much forced.
Because if you think about when you're forced to, whether big business, smaller business, you're forced to do something and be creative. And a lot of times we aren't as creative as we should be until we're forced to be.
That pressure.
The pressure does it.
Right.
So on the mic with Mike, Andrew is here, Anthony Romanello. So Anthony, how can folks get hold of and do all the great things that Henrico County has to offer?
Yeah, just check us out, Mike, on henrico.com. You can also call us at 804-501-7654. And if you go on henrico.com, you'll see our whole team and you can reach out to anybody.
So now recently, I see you still touting the thing as, what is it, the fastest data service, internet service? And okay, come on, man, you're smiling. What exactly is that? So what you're saying is the little dial up, the high speed that we have at home, we ain't talking about that. No.
This is big data for that's moving around the world. So we have undersea cables that run from Europe, South America, soon to be from Africa, that run through Virginia Beach to Henrico out at the.
That's what happens. When the bad phone rings, that's a big deal coming through. Hold up a second. We break news here.
Told them to hold my call. Sorry about that. So these undersea cables running from Europe, South America, and Africa into through Virginia Beach directly to Henrico, which is the point where first point of access. That's the fastest internet connectivity in the world. The Dinant cable, which is the one that runs from Virginia Beach to France, is 250 terabits a second. And what that means, Mike and Andrew, is that you could take.
I know what that means.
I really know what that means. So please school us on exactly what that is and what that means.
So in English, 250 terabits per second means you could take every volume in the Library of Congress and send it across the Atlantic 3 times a second. So that's the power of this data. Big data where milliseconds count. And so if you figure a millisecond is 1,000th of a second from Henrico to Ashburn, which is the internet capital of the world, is less than 4 milliseconds. And so you're talking about a fraction of the time it takes to blink an eye. And so in this big data world that we're all in, I mean, if you're in business, you're in the data business right now. Being able to move data, particularly internationally, is becoming more and more important. And so this has become for us a real differentiator. One of the exciting things that's coming down the pike next year is what's called the Confluence cable, which it'll actually be out in the Atlantic, but it'll connect Miami to New York City, and it'll have stops along the way, including Virginia Beach. And because it's easier to run the cables in the ocean than it is across the land. So that will help with internet connectivity domestically.
So one of the things that you're saying is, from a business attraction standpoint, that's a winner. When you start talking big data like that.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is a win. And a company out of Germany called Dkix just opened their exchange here in Henrico because of the NAP, where those undersea cables all intersect, the network access point. And there's only 5 of those exchanges in the Western Hemisphere. There's Chicago, Phoenix, New York, Dallas, and Richmond. And what that means for the business world is that you get, basically, it's like having an on-ramp to the interstate connected to your driveway. And so again, for folks moving big data around, this is a real differentiator. It'll really help them to where milliseconds count. This will really make a difference for folks in terms of doing business, particularly if they're doing it in Europe or Africa or South America.
One of Anthony Romanello dropping. Now that's nuggets of knowledge right there. When you start talking about big data, because the average person can't even comprehend that right there. We just know, the data that's in our house or phone usage or things like that, and not realizing that it is the backbone of information of business. That's how business is transacted. And how does Richmond get to be a global player and all? That's the question.
Well, I think it's one of these things, Mike, where, every overnight success is 10 years in the making. And
yeah, it wasn't overnight.
What happened was, a couple of things came together. The county made a substantial investment in the White Oak Technology Park in the mid-1990s, which is where the QTS NAP is located. QTS took over what was a semiconductor plant, the Kimonda semiconductor plant. They've turned it into the 4th largest data center in the world. And then when Hurricane Sandy hit New York and New Jersey several years ago, connectivity to Europe was shut down because the cable landing stations were flooded. And so there was a strong desire to have an alternative. And so they came south to Virginia Beach, which connected the undersea cables to the QTS NAP. And here we are today. So it's really a confluence of events. And I think we're only beginning to see the benefit of this incredible infrastructure.
Alrighty, what anything upcoming that our listeners would want or need to hear about?
Well, as I said, I'd stay tuned for what's happening with Green City.
Every time you come on, you say stay tuned, or I got some breaking, and I'll say, all right, Anthony, can you give it to me?
We've got to. No, I can't. We've got a couple of exciting announcements coming up in October. I wish I could tell you more, but we continue to do really good work for the community and with the great support of the county. And be sure to make sure that you get those, Mike, just as soon as they're public. But some really exciting announcements that are coming. And then we're doing a lot of work, as I mentioned earlier, with our small businesses, minority-owned businesses, and trying to increase the fold for SWAM businesses. I know you've had Jeff Conley on the show a good bit, and that's something that we continue to work on very strongly with Jeff and with his team to try to make sure that that folks really know what the opportunities are out there as the economy grows.
All righty, Anthony, we'd like to thank you for coming on the Mike with Mike, best business radio program around. I'd always like to thank Andrew for dropping in with us. So on the Mike with Mike, Anthony, thanks a lot. We'll be back on the other side.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Stay well.
all righty, take care.
Credit card guide with Beyond. I think it should not be confusing or expensive for your business to accept credit cards. As a